ultimately, my goal is to get everyone awakened to who we really are and being able to create what we really want in life. And pretty much everybody wants a healthy family, a healthy environment, clear relationships that are loving. And, that's the society I want to help create.
Fear stops us from achieving our true greatness. Are you a professional woman who is feeling stuck, unmotivated, or burned out? Are you worried about your wellness? Are you letting fear stop you from crushing your goals? If you answered yes to any or all of these, then this is the podcast for you. Dr. Charmaine Gregory, night shift emergency physician, burnout thriver, and wellness champion, along with everyday heroes just like you, will explore how to face fear in our lives and emerge victoriously.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. Be sure to click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you get notified when the next video comes out. It only takes 2 seconds to make 2 clicks. So let's do it. Let's get back to the video. Hello, Fearless Freedom Tribe. This is Dr. G, and we are back for another exciting episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. And this week, we have the incredible Lion Goodman with us, and he is going to tell us all about who he is and what he is up to.
All right. Well, there's a lot to tell. So I appreciate you're giving me the opportunity to introduce myself, because usually someone else introduces me. So now I have to think about, who am I really? And that's the question I've been asking my whole life. So it's a perfect opportunity for me to look inside and say, okay, what is this person? What do I do? My focus is on consciousness and consciousness change. And this was a passion that began really early in my life, back when I was in elementary school. And I thought, I think about myself more than those other kids think about themselves. And then I went on to study many different things, including neurology, psychology, different forms of physical healing and psychological healing. And over a period of time, over 100 workshops and trainings that I was taking in order to understand who I am and what am I doing here, and who are we as human beings, and what are we doing here, and what is it about people that makes them do the crazy things they do, including get sick and get ill and die and get into fights and wars. So it had me studying everything from history and philosophy to dance and music. So it's very wide education. And what I saw and noticed through all that time is that, first of all, I was trying to fix myself because I thought there was something wrong with me. That was a very early belief that I had. And so I was going out, I figured, well, if I can fix myself, then I'll be like those other people and I'll be normal. And the good news is, after 45 years of trying, I've never become normal. So that's the good news. And also during that time, I realized that when there was a big shift in me, whatever I was doing, whatever therapeutic process I was doing, that the really big ones, the ones that worked really well, were along with a change in my belief structure. That if my beliefs changed, then everything changed. My perception changed, my opportunities changed, possibilities changed, thoughts and feelings changed, relationships changed. So I started studying beliefs themselves. What are they? Where do they come from? How do they function? And how do you change them? And so that was another 10-year research project, and finally came to the best reasons why we have beliefs, what they do for us, what they do against us, and how to change them. And now I teach a methodology for healing the psyche to people all over the world.
Wow, that's amazing. I mean, that's quite a journey. And I love that it started when you were so young, when you had your existential crisis at an early age, and then that led you down such an incredible path. Now, I love also that you said you were trying to be quote unquote normal, and then you found out that just wasn't possible. I love that.
Yeah,
Because
nor was it
what's
wanted.
normal?
And,
Yeah, what's normal, right?
Yeah.
So no, that's great. And so now you're teaching this methodology all over the world. How did you? So I guess you have to tell us. We understand the journey, like how you got the education, but then how did you go from the acquisition of knowledge to the application of the knowledge? How did that happen?
That's a great question. First of all, I've always been practical of mind. In fact, my first true teacher, my first great teacher, said you have to apply whatever you're studying to yourself. That makes it relevant, and it also is endlessly interesting, because if you're studying physics, you're studying the physics of yourself. If you're studying history, you're studying the history of yourself and your tribe and the world. If you're studying physiology and the brain, you're studying your own brain. So I was lucky to have been pointed in that direction. And then there was always an interest, as I said, in fixing myself. So it was always like, what can I do? What's the practical application of this good idea that I just heard? And how can I make it work for me? And it turns out that it also works for others. So once I came to my own understanding, I began teaching this methodology to other people. And I now have over 600 graduates around the world of my Clear Beliefs coach training. So that gives me great joy to spread the synthesis that I put together so that other people can go to their clients and produce transformation very quickly and profoundly and rapidly and permanently.
Wow, that's awesome. And so how the coaching program and how everything looks today, is that been part of the last 10-year process, or how? Because 600 is a lot of people, right? I mean, that you've changed their lives. To get a transformation to happen in one person is difficult enough, but to have it happen in 600 people, I'm just curious about the timeline of how that transpired.
I started teaching this one method that I kind of got downloaded into me from Spirit. I thought, oh, that's really cool. That could work. And then it did work to actually change beliefs at the core of the psyche. And so I thought, this is a great tool. And I began teaching it as a tool that you could use anytime with anyone, anytime, including with yourself. And that was a 4-hour workshop that I taught to a couple hundred people. But then I realized, oh, well, it could also use this other aspect of self and this other aspect. And it's now grown into a 25-week, 100-hour training with study and practice that results in certification. And it's accredited by 2 organizations for coaches. So it's been an accumulation, and it keeps getting tweaked because it's a living, breathing school of knowledge. So a student may bring in something that they discovered, and we go, oh, good, let's add that to the training. So it keeps getting bigger, and my staff keeps trying to thin it down because it's
is that right?
a little overwhelming.
Wow. I mean, 25 weeks is pretty robust. So that's awesome.
It is.
That is awesome. So 600 individuals have been transformed, and it sounds like they are themselves coaches. Am I hearing that right?
That's right.
Okay.
Coaches, therapists, healers, consultants, and they use this technology first to heal themselves, but then to heal their clients. So it spreads out in ripples, and that's what feels so good, is to see the technology rippling out into the society. Ultimately, my goal is to get everyone awakened to who we really are and being able to create what we really want in life. And pretty much everybody wants a healthy family, a healthy environment, clear relationships that are loving. And, that's the society I want to help create.
Awesome. Love it. And then, so we talked a little bit about how things began for you. I am curious, where along the pathway did fear play a role?
Well, there's a particular incident that I've talked about a lot. It's been written up and published widely, and there's even been a film made about it. That was a moment where I had to choose between fear and love. And I'd be happy to share that incident with you if you'd like.
Absolutely.
Okay. I was 26 years old, and I was kind of lost. I didn't really know what to do because nobody was hiring people with degrees in consciousness studies, which is what I had graduated with in 1975. And so I was traveling around as a salesman on the road, selling jewelry and gift items to stores around the Southwest US. And I'd always stop and help people whose cars had broken down, or, just I was a nice guy, a good Samaritan on the road, right? And I was traveling from Las Vegas to LA through the Mojave Desert. And there was this guy whose car had broken down in the middle of the desert. And it was about 110 degrees outside. So I stopped and said, can I help you? And he said, yeah, I just put $200 into her and she's dead and I don't know what to do. And I said, well, I'm heading into LA. Do you want to ride? And he looked at me kind of funny and he said, yeah, okay. And I was driving this big van that was fitted out like an RV. And so he brought his stuff into the van and I started driving and we started talking. And he was kind of an odd duck, but I took him under my wing. And over a period of 3 days, I grew to trust him and send him on errands with the van and that kind of thing. The third night out, we were out in the middle of nowhere near a reservoir. And I was moving things around in the back of the van. And suddenly there was an explosion and something hit me in the head. And I thought maybe the gas stove had exploded. And I looked up and it was intact. And I looked to my left and there he was with a gun pointed at my head with his hand propped up on the back seat. And I realized he'd shot me. Yeah, that was my reaction too. What the hell?
What?
And my first instinct was that he was warning me that he wanted my stuff. And at that moment, all I could say is, it's all yours. Take everything. Leave me naked outside in the desert. No, just fine. It's all yours. There was nothing more valuable than my life at that moment.
Sure.
And then he shot again.
What?
And I realized he's not warning me. He's going to kill me. And I'm going to die because there was nothing I could do. I was stuck in a cramped position at the back of the van, nothing to defend myself with. He was in the front of the van, maybe 9 or 12 feet away with his hand propped up. So I knew what the score was that I was going to die. And so since I knew I was going to die, I had studied spirituality and death and dying. And so I said, well, I don't want to die unhappy or angry or upset. So I want to die with love in my heart. So I kind of opened up to love. And then I also didn't want to die with anything left undone in my life. So I went back through my history and I asked for forgiveness from anyone I had hurt. And I gave forgiveness to anyone who had hurt me. And I was sort of floating in this loving space. And he shot a third time. And the second and third bullets missed me by fractions of an inch. But obviously I jumped. And then I went, okay, well, I'm about to take off. So I was out of my body, kind of looking up, going, okay, parents, I'm coming home. But I was filled with this loving light and kind of bliss, really. And then he shot again. And the fourth bullet hit me and sent my head flying to the side, and all this blood was rushing down out of my head. And what surprised me is I was back in my body. I thought I would be out of my body. I was halfway out anyway. I was kind of looking down at this little van with this amusing scene going on. But I was back in my body and I felt intact. I'd studied neurology and physiology, so I knew that something ought to be missing. I didn't know where the bullet had gone through me, but I figured something ought to be missing, but I couldn't find anything missing. My mental body was intact, my spiritual body intact, my physical body seemed to be intact, although my head hurt like hell. And so I thought, well, if I'm here back in my body, I want to look this man in the eyes and see my assassin, in the eyes. And so I picked up my head and I turned and looked at him, and he freaked out. And he jumped up and down and he said, "Why aren't you dead, man? You're supposed to be dead."
Wow.
And I didn't have an answer for that question. So I was still in this blissful love light space. And I just said, "Here I am." And he said, "It's too weird, man. It's too weird. It's just like my dream." And I said, "What dream?" And he said, "It was a dream I had this morning. I was shooting at this guy, but he wouldn't die, but it wasn't you. It was somebody else in the dream." And I thought, okay, this is weird.
That is very weird.
Yeah. Who's writing this script? It's like I found myself in the middle of a movie and I'd never even read the script, and so I thought, okay, well, that's strange enough that I'm back in my body, that he's had a dream where the guy wouldn't die. And here I am, not dead. So I thought if I could talk to him, maybe he wouldn't shoot me if I could keep him talking. Now, I want to remind you that I was in this place of love and light, and he was included in it. So there was no fear. There was just acceptance, love, God, light, everywhere. And he was in it. So it didn't require a lot for me to just talk to him gently and kindly and try to get him to settle down, because he was all adrenalated. He was looking out the windows, but we were out in the middle of nowhere. And he said, "Why aren't you dead? I shot you 4 times in the head, man. Why aren't you dead?" And of course, I didn't know the answer to that. So he got curious, and then he came over and he looked at me and he said, "Does it hurt?" Because I was all full of blood all over my face and body. And I said, "Well, yeah, it hurts, but I think I'm okay." And he said, and after some minutes of this, he said, "Okay, man, I'm going to take you to a hospital I know." And I said, "Okay, that sounds like a good idea." So,
My
so
gosh.
he kind of put stuff around me so I couldn't jump him, and he got in the front of the van and he took off. He started driving, and I had time to think about what had just happened. I had, it was a reverie time. Like, wow, this is very strange. I thought I was going to be dead, but I'm not. It was sort of, what's happening? And so he drove for a while. I have no idea how much time, because time was like I was out of time at that moment. And finally, the van stopped and the engine turned off, and I knew we weren't near a hospital because there were no bright lights.
Oh.
It was dark outside. And he came back and he sat next to where I was crouched down, and with a gun in his hand, he said, "I can't take you to the hospital, man. I have to kill you." And I said, "Oh, why is that?" And he said, "Because if I take you to the hospital, they'll put me back in jail. I can't go back to jail, man." And I realized,
Oh.
oh, this person's not just a crazy person with a gun, it's a crazy ex-con with a gun, like elevated the quality of whatever was happening. And so I said, well, maybe you don't have to take me to the hospital. Maybe I could drive myself, or, I was just kind of opening up the possibilities, because that's what I do. I open up possibilities. And he said, "No, I can't trust you, man. I can't trust you. If I take you to the hospital, they'll put me back in jail. I can't go back." And so we talked for a while, and then I said, "I'm feeling really cramped here. I'd like to get out and stretch." And he said, "Okay," because I could tell that he was starting to care about me. It's like he didn't really want to kill me. And so he let me out of the van, and he pointed down the hill to a little pond, and I walked down the hill, and he was behind me with a gun. And I thought, well, he could shoot me in the back and push me in the water, but I felt invincible. And so I squatted down and I washed off the blood from my face and my hands, and I stood up and turned toward him. And he looked at me very strangely, and he kind of held out the gun toward me, and he said, "What would you do if I handed you this gun?" I said, "I'd throw it out there in the water." And he said, you wouldn't shoot me? You wouldn't try to kill me?" I said, "No, why would I do that? I have my life, you have your life. Like, it's okay." And he looked at me and he went, "Man, you are the strangest person I've ever met." And I thought to myself, I'm probably the strangest person you'll ever meet. So we went back to the van and continued to talk and figure out what could we do to get out of this situation where he didn't want to kill me, but he didn't want to go back to jail. And we ended up talking for hours and hours and hours. And I got him to talk about his background and how he got into this position and when he decided to do it. And he had decided at the very beginning, but then I kept being nice to him. And so he had a hard time pulling, but he pulled out the gun and pointed it at me a number of times when I was sleeping. And so I finally
dear.
said, this is when I knew I was not psychic, by the way. I thought I was psychic before, but I realized I am not psychic because I had no idea what this was going on. Anyway, so we talked and talked and talked until we found a way to end it. And finally I said, "Look, I will not turn you in if you never do anything like this again."
Wow.
And he said, "Okay." And we shook hands and drove to a place that he knew, and he got out of the van with his stuff, and I shook his hand standing on the street. I'm sure I was covered with
Bloody
blood.
still. Oh my.
And he looked at me strangely, and I wished him well and went back and drove myself to the hospital, UCLA. And the the ER doc, you know this well, ER doc was looking at me and sewing up my scalp and saying, "You're a lucky man. 2 bullets grazed you,
Yes.
bounced off your skull." And I said, "No, I'm a blessed man, not a lucky man." So there's the story, and people can read it on my website, liongoodman.com. And at the end of the story, there's the link to the movie that was made, award-winning movie based on my story. So that was my 15 minutes of fame right there.
Hey, it's Dr. G, and I just wanted to take a quick moment to thank you for listening to this episode. I'm so honored to have you here with me. Did you know that I can help you to get your own podcast started? With my podcasting launch course for professionals, I walk you through everything you need to know about starting a podcast. I'm with you every step of the way, from sign up to launching your show, with 5 episodes ready to go. There's a done for you version that's also available if you would just rather just do recordings and leave the behind the scenes work up to us, then that one is definitely for you. But either way, we've got your back here at Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Oh, if you already have a show and you need production services, we have monthly plans available for you. So check out the links in the episode show notes for more information. Let's get back to the show. That is incredible. I mean, wow. Because to have the wherewithal to negotiate in that position, that's just incredible.
That was a choice between, anger or fear and love and acceptance, right? And that's the choice we have at every moment, no matter what's happening.
Wow. That is definitely an incredible story. As you're talking, I'm envisioning, being crouched down the back of the van and, having, the blood like blocking my vision as I'm looking up at my, I don't know. I guess he's kind of like, assailant. I don't know what word you describe, but like, looking up at this person who is trying to end my life and then trying to figure out how to have compassion for this person while I am on the brink of passing into the next life. It's amazing. Like, that is amazing. Like, I cannot say that I would have responded the same way as you did. I think that response was extremely unique, and it really speaks to the work that you did previous to that, because I'm sure had you not done all that deep work beforehand, you're probably wouldn't have the same story to tell.
I probably wouldn't be around to tell that story. So
which is incredible, right?
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
And that simply reinforced the fact that I was supposed to go and study consciousness, spirit. Who are we? What are we doing here? I mean, it was such a shocking incident that it sent me further into my own interests of what is the nature of human nature? What's the nature of human motivation? What's the nature of life itself on this planet? And so I just studied everything I could. And in the meantime, I got a real job as a headhunter, which is kind of ironic, don't you think, that my head was hunted and then I became a headhunter? Yes. And that became my career for 25 years, as finding people for jobs for corporations. But weekends and evenings, I was doing workshops and shamanic practices and, involving myself in everything I could study and try to understand this question of who are we?
That's awesome. That's awesome. And so, Lion, you have to tell us the actual website address.
Yes, my story can be found on liongoodman.com. It's LION Goodman, liongoodman.com. And it's under articles. It's Lion's near-death story.
Nice. Oh, man. Geesh. I mean, it's because I mean, I usually ask a lot of more stories, a lot more questions about fear, but holy smokes, that really is like, I would say the epitome. Because I mean, like everybody listening, I'm sure, because I was sitting here and I'm like, I don't even know. Like, oh my gosh, you're in a closed space. You can't. There's nowhere to run. There's nowhere to go to. There's nothing to, no object to grab to defend yourself. I mean, that is like the ultimate fear intense scenario.
Right. So what can you do other than surrender
Right.
and
Which
to
is
pray?
nuts.
Yeah.
Right.
Surrender and pray, get with your God and get right with God. That's perfectly good way of saying it. Whatever
Yeah.
your form of source is connect with that which is most holy and most perfect.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that.
You're
Like I said,
welcome.
and I feel like I know that that impacted a lot of people today. So I really appreciate it. So, when you're not, so are you still working as a headhunter or are you not doing
No,
that
I,
anymore?
I gave that up about 20 years ago. And since that
Okay.
time, I've been teaching and coaching other people and helping other people with their consciousness issues and their psychological issues and their physical issues and their relational
Okay.
issues. Uh,
Okay. All right. Awesome. 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 And then you said that is your program offered, is it a virtual program or is it something where they have to go to a physical place to take it?
my training for practitioners is online and live. So
Okay.
we have live classes online, and then we have practice sessions. Students practice with each other, each of the techniques, so that they get to experience it as a client and clear their own beliefs and their own stuff out of the way. And then they get to practice as a coach and help other people and see how effective it is when you're helping someone else clear their stuff out of the way. And then there's
Okay.
also an observer position and supervisors. And it's a very intense program where you practice everything intensely, you learn a lot, you practice a lot, and you become skilled at using these technologies for transformation and also for therapy. It's a therapeutic process. We don't call it therapy because we're not therapists, we're coaches, but it's very therapeutic. And we go back and we heal traumas from the past, we clear childhood wounds, bad programming from childhood. So we're doing a lot in memory. In psychology, it's called memory reconsolidation. We're going back and actually changing the memories of what happened, which releases the trauma. And it gives the person a new lease on life, basically. It's as if the trauma never happened or it happened, but where we're working is at the meaning making layer of the mind, the belief layer, right? So something bad happened. My dad beat me up over and over again. And I came to some conclusions about that. And it's the conclusions like I'm a bad person or I'll never amount to anything or I'm a piece of crap because he said so. Those are the beliefs that really impact us later in life. The wounds heal because our body knows how to heal. The psyche doesn't heal because unless unless the experience is resolved, it gets stuck somewhere in the body, mind, brain, spirit system, right? Emotions. So we go in and we work with those traumatic memories and give the person relief from what was stuck.
Awesome. Sounds great. Oh, wow. No, this has been such an amazing discussion. I truly, truly, truly appreciate you taking time and sharing your story because I know that it's going to make a huge impact. And also for sharing what you've learned over these years with others through your program. Because I think that that's something, as you said, is going to make incredible impact in a ripple effect because those 600 are going to be impacting tens of thousands, probably even millions of people, which is amazing. So thank you for that. Yeah, and thank you for not checking out back in 75.
You're very
OG,
welcome.
OG. Oh my gosh. All right. So we're at the point in the show where we do a tradition called fill in the blanks. Are you ready for fill in the blanks,
Oh,
Lion?
yes. It sounds like a game show. I'm ready. Do
It
I
is
get
kind of
points? Do
there's no prize.
I
There's no
get
prize. I'm
money?
sorry. There's no prize. There's no prize. Um, but
The prize is presence. It's always presence. Our presence here not
Yes,
present from the
indeed.
outside, right?
Indeed, indeed, indeed. All right. So the first one is, if I am fearless, I will.
Can I elaborate a bit rather than
Absolutely.
just
Yeah,
answer?
yeah.
Okay. So in my study of beliefs, when you look at fear, fear is actually the belief I can't handle this. So if you go up to a roller coaster and you have the belief I can't handle this, you're going to feel fear. If you have the belief I can handle this, you're going to feel excitement. And they're very similar in the body, right? So if I wanted to be fearless, I would clear the belief I can't handle it. I would take on the belief I can handle anything that comes across, even if it's bullets, right? And so that would make me fearless, and it would give me the capacity to respond rather than react. And so if I had no fear, I would be able to respond to the world appropriately and with consciousness rather than automatic behaviors.
Love it. Love it. Now, this one is similar. So I'm curious to see what you answer here. To me, fearless freedom means.
Fearless freedom means that I have tools that I can apply at any time in any circumstance to deal with whatever's in front of me. If it's scary, I have tools to deal with my fear. If it makes me angry, I have tools to deal with my anger, and I can resolve it inside myself without striking out. If I'm confused, I have tools to relax and open so that my higher mind and intuition can work. So that's what I give people, is a set of tools that they can use at any time in any circumstance that allows them, makes them more capable of dealing with life and becoming a creator in their life, creating what they actually want instead of, what life serves them up.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I like that. I like being a creator. So I'm glad that you're perpetuating that. And then last but not least, my battle cry is.
Hanta yo.
And now you got to tell us what that means.
It's a Lakota phrase, and it means clear the way. So if someone's riding in on their horse into the village and they have an important message for the chieftains, they say, Hanta yo, get out of my way, clear the way. So that's my
awesome.
battle cry. Yeah. It
Oh, I
comes out
love
of a book
it.
called Hanta Yo, which is a fabulous book. Highly recommend it.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. 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 Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your time and your pearls and your sharing. We really appreciate it. We really do. Thank you. Thank you, Lion.
Thank you, Dr. G. It's a total pleasure being with you today.
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fearless Freedom with Dr. G. Again, I'm Dr. G. And if you like this episode, be sure to subscribe so that you can get notified of when the next episode is going to be. And also, I'll catch you next time. Have a great one. Be strong, be brave, and unleash your greatness.